Sweet. What is up, my dudes and dudettes? Welcome to Youth Group Live for another fun-filled week online. But in person is way funner. I miss you guys. Keith is my guest tonight.
What's up? Miss you guys a ton.
Yeah, it's kind of weird talking to a camera.
Super weird.
For those of you that don't know, Keith is my number 2, or the Deuce.
The Deuce.
So he helps me out quite a bit with the day-to-day stuff with the youth ministry here at Valley View. So we have a few spots for camp still. If you want to go, shoot me an email, john@vv.church. If you haven't already, if you're not already signed up. The plan is still to go, unless otherwise it comes down later, then we'll figure something out for sure. So when I have a guest, we usually play a game, but we're not going to kind of do that tonight. We're just going to ask some questions. And a thing called Break the Ice.
Right. Deeper side of John.
Deeper side of me. And we're going to get to know Keith a little bit as well. So, Keith, where are you from? I asked this to everybody because not everybody's from here.
So I grew up in Moriarty. Then after high school, went to college briefly in Texas and then Las Cruces, and then I've moved back home.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you moved back home.
Me too.
Yeah, I did the same a little bit. Not the same places, but I went to Portales for college for like a year and a half.
It's a scenic place to live, Portales.
Yeah, you also do a lot of dumb stuff.
Well, that's college, period, because we did some dumb stuff too.
Yeah. And then I moved back. I moved to Albuquerque for a couple years, and then I moved back to Edgewood.
Nice.
The big city is not, that's not for me.
No, big
Even though
city,
Albuquerque's really not that big.
it's big enough.
Yeah, big enough.
So I got some questions for you. Got questions for me?
I do have some questions for you.
Make it happen, Captain.
All right. So my first question for you, and hey, those of you that are at home, feel free to answer this for you as well in the comments so we can get to know you as well. So here we go. First question. It's kind of random. Describe your perfect day.
Fishing all day. Doesn't matter where, what we're fishing for, fishing.
Nice.
Some of the best times I've had in my life were with friends fishing.
Nice.
All right. So if you could start a small business, what would it be and what would it be called?
Small business. So I've had some thoughts about a small business before. Barbecue and baking cakes. And it'd be called Johnny K's Q and Cakes.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
That's some thought into that. I really thought that was going to hang you up, but that's
Yeah.
good. Q and cakes.
I like to cook some ribs. I'm pretty good. I'm probably not as good as Seth. I mean, he smokes some pretty good food.
Seth's head's big enough. Let's not get crazy.
That's
But his
true.
food is good.
Yeah, it is good. And I've baked some pretty decent cakes. Now, decorating cakes, not so much. That's not.
That's where the Johnny K comes in.
Yeah, I'd have to hire somebody to decorate cakes for
Nice.
sure. Yeah. All right. So another question for you. Here we go. What is your least favorite smell and why?
Least favorite smell. I think feet, man. Feet are probably my least favorite smell. You know, like I'm reminded of the days of Roller King when you walk in and it just reeks of feet. You know, like roller skates are cool and fun, but the smell of feet,
Yeah.
it's foul.
I think, speaking of Roller King, once we get like out of quarantine and they open back up, we should go to Roller King.
But
as
bring
a
your
youth group.
masks so we don't have
Bring
to
your
smell
mask.
feet.
Make sure you bring your homemade covered masks so you don't have to smell the feet. So I'm going to answer this question
Okay.
because I think it's funny. My least favorite smell is BO covered in Axe body spray.
Oh, I can't argue that. Yeah.
Because, man, middle school camp and high school camp, man, you boys stink. And you think Axe body spray is a substitute for a shower, but it's not. It's really not.
It's like putting icing on onions.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. So this is where we get deep. So talk to me for a minute about who you used to be and who you are now. Because when I first met you, you were like wicked strange, like 2 red flags from an FBI watch list. But now you're a completely different person, and it's super awesome, your transition. So I think other people need to know.
So I used to be like a crazy introvert, for one. And so I did act a little strange because I don't like interacting with people. I'm getting better,
Way better.
I also used to be a professional wrestler, and his name is Johnny K. And he used to be a serial killer. So I looked the part of a serial killer. Like I had long, greasy hair, kind of almost like a child molester look to me. And I lived that way for probably 4 years. For a while there, it started to become my identity, and I lived that way. Like I lived the gimmick. And then God just got a hold of me and started working on me and was like, hey man, that's not who I created you to be. And then so he kept changing me, and I'm here now.
No, it's been big. And so I remember the first time I met you was at a dinner at Takano's for Youth Leaders Appreciation. I remember you sat next to me, and the whole time I felt like I should have to watch you out of the corner of my eye. But now that I get to know you, like I said, you're one of my best friends, and I love hanging out with you, and I love the transition and how God's worked on you and formed and changed you. So I wanted to bring that out.
Yeah. It's been a cool transition, even for myself seeing it. I know my wife has loved it, because I definitely wasn't the man or husband that God called me to be beforehand. Yeah.
Well, we're happy. We're glad.
Yeah. All right. So here we go. Now my questions are not as serious.
It's cool. I'm
So-
not that serious either.
I know. So here we go. Next question. If you had the power to eliminate one food from the world so that no one would ever have to eat it again, what food would you destroy?
Hands down, green beans.
Green
They're
beans.
the nastiest thing, and when you eat them, they squeak on your teeth. They're just gross. They just cut them out.
I'm sure a lot of people would actually agree with you on that, with the green bean thing.
They try to flour it up with green bean casserole.
Hey, I love green bean casserole, man. I love it.
No,
That's
again,
when on Thanksgiving, like green bean casserole, like that's like 3rd and 4th and 5th helpings right there for me.
no way, guy. That's like icing on onions. That's gross. All right, here we go. So, what's your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, dang. My greatest accomplishment. Probably raising my kids. I feel like I've done a pretty good job raising my kids.
I would agree.
So that's probably my greatest accomplishment, personally. Yeah, I would go with that.
So, I think my greatest accomplishment, so I can answer my own question, is where I'm at right now with this youth and being my kids, just baseball coaching youth here at the church, just kids, the way that I can connect with them and just how God's blessed me in that way. That's it. It's not my accomplishment. I guess that's God's accomplishment.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
but I get to live it.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
All right. Here we go. What's the hardest learned lesson from your life so far? That one is serious.
Yeah, that one's gonna take some thought too. The hardest learned lesson. I think the hardest learned lesson in my life was kind of in my trial right before I retired and really got involved in the churches. Is I was similar to you. I was I accomplished a lot in the law enforcement, and so I was assigned to like all the best units, like repeat offender projects, tactical, and so that got to my head, and so I was very arrogant. And when people would tell me that I was arrogant, I'm like, no, I'm not arrogant. And so the hardest learned lesson was there at the end of my career before God really started. Well, it's when God started working on me and humbled me, is that my arrogance was beyond, out of control. So I learned a hard lesson between arrogance and being humble.
Nice.
All right.
All right.
So I'm hoping that we can just both answer this question, because this is a great question to probably end on. You ready?
Yeah.
Tell me your greatest wipeout.
My greatest wipeout. Dang. Like me just biffing it, or like dang.
Like just a good old-fashioned biff, like fall off the roof, whatever it could be.
Oh, it happened. Well, probably not my greatest wipeout. Funny one though. Like I ate it pretty good out here, on ice during the winter. Like I ate it hard. Like I just slipped and fell. That's probably not my greatest wipeout. My greatest wipeout. I mean, I've done some dumb stuff.
But you can't like jump off a ladder during your wrestling. I'm like talking about like where you're going down and you fight it the whole way down, and
Sure.
you have to lay there for a minute. So I'll tell you mine while you think.
Okay.
So I used to mountain bike a lot, and so I'd mountain bike for a while, and I started upgrading, got the lock-in pedals. You know, you lock your shoes in the pedals, and got me a nice mountain bike. And we'd been mountain biking all over the Sandias. And then I had some friends convince me that it would be a good idea to put my mountain bike on the ski lift and take it to the top and ride it down the ski runs. And I got this nice little course with these turnbacks, and so you can imagine coming down the mountain, you're going pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting confident, coming pretty fast, and I went into a curve and did what they call a high side, where your whole bike turns this way. Well, with my feet locked in, I just kind of had to ride it out, and it really felt like there was no momentum. It's once I got in the air, I felt like they just dropped me straight down, and it hurt to my most inner soul when I hit the dirt, and I was so messed up that I couldn't unlock my feet. So I knew there was other bikes coming, so I had to drag myself and my bike off the trail, and I laid by some trees until I could get myself gathered up. But I'm not kidding you, like I feel like it rocked my spleen. Like maybe my kids felt the shock from smashing like that.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was in Boy Scouts. And we used to go hiking a lot, like especially in the Sandias, because it's close, and we lived here in Edgewood, so it's easy to go. So one day, I mean, we've hiked this trail like a gazillion times, and like we were on our way down, and we're like, you know what? We're gonna not use the trail and just slide down the mountain on all the leaves, because all the oak leaves, all the dead oak leaves. So we start sliding down, and our leaders were like, sure, go for it.
Also genius.
Yeah. I mean, we were older-ish. We were in our teenage years, so So we started sliding down. We got going pretty fast because, dead leaves and hills. You start sliding pretty fast. And you got, your backpack on and stuff. And, well, my feet got a little wobbly, loose underneath me. And I fell to my butt and kept on sliding. And then, so I couldn't control exactly where I was going. And I hit a tree.
Nice.
And that hurt for a little bit.
Oh, of course.
And then I was like, you know what? Back to the trail.
Right. Genius with a capital J.
Yeah. That was just one of many. There was another one. I was in high school. We got out. I think I told this story before at youth group, but it was our early release day, and I thought it'd be cool to drift my car on the dirt road, like going to my house. And so I turned, and I drift it like into the ditch and popped the tire off the rim. And so I had to get the tire back on the rim before my parents got home. So they didn't know, which I did. I accomplished that.
You gotta want it.
Yeah.
You gotta want
I
it.
knew I was going to be in huge trouble if I didn't. So, well, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. This
And-
was fun.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, watch this video before Joel leads us in worship.
What is up, my dudes and dudettes? Welcome to Youth Group Online. We bring our praise, you bring revival. We lift our hands, you lift our eyes up. Where your love is found, there will be no fear. God, your kingdom come, your will be done here. On earth as in heaven, Spirit of God, pour out, all too wide open. Jesus, we need you now. Come, have your way in this place, break our walls down. Spirit of God, pour out, on earth as in heaven. Jesus, we need you now. We bring our shame, you bring redemption. You turn our chains into your freedom. Where your love is found, there will be no fear. God, your kingdom come, your will be done here. On earth as in heaven, Spirit of God, pour out, hearts are wide open. Jesus, we need you now. Come, have your way in this place, break our walls down. Spirit of God, pour out, all earth as in Jesus, we need you now. In your presence there is peace. In your presence we are free. There's no better place to be. There's no better place to be. In your presence there is truth. In your presence mountains move. We forever run to you. We forever run to you. In your presence there is peace. In your presence we are free. There's no better place to be. There's no better place to be. In your presence there is truth. In your presence mountains move. We forever run to you. We forever run to you. On earth as in heaven. Spirit of God, pour out. Hearts are wide open. Jesus, we need you now. Come, have your way in this place. Break our walls down. Spirit of God, pour out. On earth as in heaven. Jesus, we need you now. Woo, totes yeet. Well, I searched the world, it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise, treasures of fame are never enough. And you came along, and you put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing. 'Cause nothing is better than you. No, I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, for failures and flaws. You've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause God of the mountain is the God of the valley. No, there's not a place mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing. Nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing. 'Cause nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. 'Cause nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. So Father, we praise you and we thank you for everything you've done. We thank you for guiding us and watching over us, and thank you for, because we know you're bigger than this, and we just thank you for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hey, this week we're going to look at anxiety and how God has given us tools to deal with that anxiety. This is a one-night lesson. This isn't a series or anything. It's just a one-time thing. And I think during these unprecedented times, some of us may be dealing with anxiety. Maybe your parents have been dealing with anxiety because of job stuff, or even you because of school.
Or even just being cooped up, separated from people.
Yeah,
It gets hard.
yeah. So go ahead and watch this video for tonight's lesson.
Being in high school is difficult, okay? But I probably didn't have to tell you that because you already know. In fact, I know this could get crazy, but let's try it. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to turn to your neighbor and vent about some of the most difficult parts of high school for you. Ready? Go. Okay, you know what? That's long enough. Now, I don't know if you feel better or more frustrated after that. Some of you're gonna be talking for a little while, but just we'll get back to that later. And while I couldn't hear all of your conversations, or you know what, I'm on video, I couldn't hear any of them, I'm guessing a lot of them boiled down to the same idea: pressure. because your world has a lot of it. Maybe you feel the pressure of doing well in school, in sports, and in every other extracurricular activity that you're involved in. Maybe you feel pressure from your parents, guidance counselors, and even yourself when you consider college or maybe what comes next after high school. Maybe you feel pressure in the form of social media comparison. If you're like most of us, that pressure feeds a fear of never measuring up, never being in the group of friends you want, never getting the date you want, and never having the sense of belonging that you want. So many of you are familiar with the words stress and anxiety. You use them casually when talking about what to wear or what movie to watch, but you also feel them when you're trying to sleep at night, when you sit down to take a test that you forgot about, or maybe you remembered, when you get asked by an adult what you're gonna do with the rest of your life, when you think about what to do next Friday night, when you hear your parents arguing in the other room, it goes on and on. See, the crazy thing is we experience it in so many areas of our lives that we often don't even notice it. It becomes a natural part of our existence. And if we do notice it, we wonder, is it anxiety or just a little bit of stress? Is it normal anxiety or is it overload? Do I need to get help? Or am I taking small things and blowing them out of proportion? Do I need to just get over it? See, when a car is close to running out of gas, the low fuel light comes on, usually accompanied by an annoying beeping sound. It's a warning sign that says, hey bro, get to the gas station and fill her up, all right? But what are the warning signs when it comes to anxiety? How do we know that, hey, we're in the danger zone? Well, unfortunately, it's not as simple as the fuel level in a car because you're a human being. You're dealing with a mixture of circumstances and your personality, influences, hormones, mental patterns, just to name a few. Every person is different, so it's not always easy to recognize the warning signs of anxiety. But there are some symptoms that when you identify with them, it's a red flag for sure. For example, when the pressure on your chest is so heavy that you feel like you can't breathe, that's a warning sign. When it's nighttime and you're trying to fall asleep, but you can't because your mind is racing so fast, it feels like you're running on a treadmill and you just can't stop. When there are knots in your stomach and you feel like you can't focus on anything else, that's a warning sign. When you have a tough time relaxing most of the time because you just kind of always feel on edge, that's a warning sign. But what do you do then? What's normal and what's not? And more importantly, can we avoid these feelings? Or is it just the way life is supposed to be? See, the thing about stress and anxiety is that there are some answers, but they can be different for everybody. That being said, some of what we say tonight might be helpful for you, and some of it may not be for you right now. Just know that our goal is to help you as much as possible because we love you and care about you. So to start, let's make sure we're all on the same page about the differences between stress and anxiety. What's the difference? Well, here's an easy way to think about it. Stress is specific. It's a reaction to an actual situation, like the pressure you feel over an upcoming test or a big game. That's specific. Stress is usually short-term. And when the specific thing we're stressed about passes, the stress usually goes away. That test is over, the game is over, okay? Now, anxiety is not specific. It's more like a reaction to the world as a whole. Anxiety is something you feel all the time or about all things. It's a general feeling of unease or fear that doesn't go away, even when the stressful circumstance does. Now, contrary to what you may think, both stress and anxiety can be a good thing. Stress helps us accomplish what we need to accomplish. It pushes us to get better and work hard, and there's nothing wrong with that. Anxiety comes from the same fear part of our brain that puts us on high alert when there's danger nearby, like when we're about to get hit by a bus or fall off a cliff. Like, we need that part of our brains, y'all. But anxiety becomes a problem when it sticks around for too long and it's no longer helpful. When there's no danger that we need to pay attention to, but our mind and body is acting like there is, or when we're constantly creating new situations in our head to fear and be anxious about, we need to know that's not how we're designed to work. In fact, when we live with constant anxiety, our body creates a stress hormone that is pumped through our entire body that keeps us on high alert. And living like that for a long period of time eventually wears you down and wears you out. And at that point, anxiety isn't helpful for pointing out danger. It's hurting you. It's keeping you from functioning in normal life. So the question is, well, what in the world do we do about it? If you feel anxious almost all the time, like what are your options? Well, you can talk to a friend, go for a run, take a nap, lay off energy drinks, practice breathing exercises, meet with a counselor, get some therapy, and so on and so on and so on. Like we already mentioned, coping will look different for everyone. But for the next few minutes, we're gonna look at one thing everyone in this room can do when you feel stressed or anxious, no matter how severe or simple your feelings may be. See, anxiety isn't a new problem, it's a human problem. So even though it feels intensely personal and it makes you feel like no one else gets what you're experiencing, you can rest assured that you aren't the first and you won't be the last and you aren't alone. And that's why I love the book of Psalms. There are several different types of literature in the Bible. The book of Psalms is like a book of poetry. But in some places, it's more than poetry. It's like a journal written by real people who gave us specific insight into what they were feeling. And Psalm 56 is like that. It's a poem written by David, who's probably the most famous king of Israel. And we're told that this psalm was written when David was captured in Gath by the Philistines. In hindsight, we know that David lived through this experience, but at the time, David didn't know that. So who knows how much stress and anxiety he was feeling? In the middle of that, he writes this, "Be merciful to me, my God, for my enemies are in hot pursuit. All day long they press their attack. My adversaries pursue me all day long." See, David's enemies are out to kill him. He would be crazy not to be afraid. But notice what he does here. He names the thing that is stressing him out. And one of the trickiest things about anxiety is that it makes you feel powerless. It puts a general fear in your heart. And that's a hard thing to beat. Like, how do you get over anxiety that doesn't tell you to be afraid of anything specific? Just the world in general. And that's why David starts by getting specific. And so for you and I, when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling anxious, we need to name it. We need to name it. But David doesn't end there. He says this, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?" See, check out what David does here. He moves the focus from what's making him afraid to the God he trusts. His circumstances don't change, but his focus does. His situation, it doesn't move around, but his perspective does. And that's important because sometimes the thing that causes us to feel overwhelmed is something we can't control. School is a reality. Parents arguing sometimes is a reality. Friends turning on us sometimes is a reality. And those things don't always go away like a test does once you've taken it. When life doesn't change, the one thing we can change is what we do with it and how we respond to the stress and anxiety that life brings. And we can bring it to God. See, we can acknowledge what we are feeling. We can name it. We can name why it bothers us. And we can shift our focus to something else that is a reality, and that's God's role in it. Think of it this way. When we're stressed or anxious, it can be helpful to name what, why, and who. And here's what I mean. Imagine your parents or step-parents are fighting. For some of you, you don't have to imagine long at all, right? And I don't care how old you are, when the adults in your life are fighting, it's stressful. Now imagine that during that kind of stress, you pray, "God, my parents argue all the time." That's acknowledging what is causing the stress. And then, "I'm afraid they're gonna split up." Or, "I hate walking on eggshells at home." Or, "The mood in the house is always tense. They are so caught up in their drama, they act like they don't care about my life." See, and that's why it's causing stress. And finally, "God, I know that even if my home life feels out of control, you are in control. Even if my parents seem to not care, you do. Even if things change at home, you never change." See, that's who God is. So one more time, you name the what. What is it that's bothering you or causing anxiety? You name the why you feel like it's causing you that, and then shift your focus and name who God is. See, in anxious situations, this can help. Will it fix everything? Probably not. But it can help you see clearly. The idea is to form a habit of focusing on truth and gaining a perspective larger than your current one. It will help you train your mind to get out of the rut of worry, stress, and anxiety. See, think of it this way. There are tools to take on anxiety. David knew what we know, that life can be overwhelming. We will face things we don't feel prepared to face. We'll get stuck in negative thoughts, paralyzed by anxiety, stressed about things that we can't control, and fearful over what we can do about it. And over time, he figured out that it did him no good to stay stuck there. So he modeled a way through with tools that can help us today. So when it comes to stress and anxiety, there's no one-size-fits-all cure. There are lots of good and acceptable tactics to help us cope, and that's okay. But what's not okay is living with anxiety that holds you back from what you really want your day-to-day life to look like, all while you keep it to yourself. And that's why we want to begin the conversation today. If your stress or anxiety has begun to take over, we want you to know that this church is one of the safest places to talk about it. And if you have a conversation with your small group leader today, here's what won't happen. They won't say, hey, just have more faith. They won't say, wow, nobody else feels like that. They won't say, oh, look, you have nothing to be stressed about. No, in fact, if I had to predict how that conversation would go, I'm guessing that they won't be surprised at all. They'll encourage you and they'll help you figure out the next step. So as you head out today, no matter where you are and what you're feeling, if you're feeling stuck in the anxiety or stuck in the stress or not in the middle of it right now, be aware that seasons like this are likely to come. You need to know that you aren't and you won't be helpless at those times. There are tools to take on anxiety. There are people to walk with you. There are ways forward. And there is a God who is absolutely crazy about you and will be with you through it all.
When you're feeling stressed out or anxious, name it and then talk to God about it. Remember the what, why, and focus on who God is. He is constant. There are tools to take the anxiety that you may be dealing with away. But, we're here to help. Your small group leaders are there to help. You don't have to do it alone. We're not created to do anything alone. We're created for a community. Even though we may feel like we're alone right now because we're cooped up at home, but we have this awesome thing called a telephone. That
It's not used very much anymore.
Yeah, call, text, FaceTime, Marco Polo. So remember to talk to God about it and turn it over to Him about your anxiousness. The what, the why, and who God is. And He is there for you all the time through your anxiousness. Will you join me in prayer? Father God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for the tools that you have given us to deal with our anxiety. Lord, I pray that we can stay focused on you when we're feeling anxious and that we can reach out to those that we trust when we're feeling anxious and that we just lay our anxiousness at your feet. Lord, I ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right. So your small group leader should be reaching out to you via Skype or Facebook Messenger or however we're doing it now. If you don't hear from your small group leader here soon, text John or myself, and we'll get you in a group and get it going.
Make sure you guys like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, keep up with our Facebook page and Instagram page. Tomorrow, we're going to start a 21-day prayer challenge.
Get on that.
So I'll be posting up a video on our Facebook page and here on YouTube and Instagram, just a short little prayer. And then each day for the next 21 days, we'll be doing that. So yeah, make sure you're doing that. Also check out our What Day Is It Anyways videos.
Love them. Love those videos.
Because, we're cooped up. We might not remember what day it is. So we'll see you guys next week.